The name of our lesson: the 13th tribe now admits they are Khazars. Let's begin with a reading out of 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, starting with verse 1. In 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, starting with verse 1, we clearly read, "But of the times and the seasons, brethren, you have no need that I write unto you. For yourselves know perfectly that the day of Yahweh so cometh as a thief in the night. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. But ye, brethren, are not in darkness, that day should overtake you as a thief. You are all the children of light and the children of the day. We are not of the night, nor of darkness. Therefore, let us not sleep as do others, but let us watch and be sober. For they that sleep, sleep in the night, and they that be drunken are drunken in the night. But let us, who are of the day, be sober, putting on the breastplate of faith and love, and for a helmet the hope of salvation. For Yah have not appointed us to wrath, but to obtain salvation by our Master, Yahushua HaMashiach, who died for us, that, whether we wake or sleep, we should live together with him. Wherefore comfort yourselves together, and edify, build up one another, even as also ye do. And we beseech you, brethren, to know them which labor among you, and are over you in the Master, and admonish you, and to esteem them very highly in love for their work's sake. And be at peace, be it shalom among yourselves. Now we exhort you, brethren, warn them that are unruly, comfort the feeble-minded, support the weak, be patient toward all men. See that none render evil for evil unto any man, but ever follow that which is good, both among yourselves and to all men. Rejoice evermore. Pray without ceasing. In everything give thanks, for this is the will of Yahweh and Yeshua HaMashiach concerning you. Quench not the spirit, despise not prophesying. Verse 21. Prove all things, and hold fast that which is good. Abstain from all appearance of evil. Hallelujah. Prove all things. Back in August of 2012, we did a comprehensive lesson on the 13th tribe, where we busted wide open a drop of the blood of our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, in their veins, and who had convinced the world that they were the descendants of the chosen people of the Holy Bible and the inheritors of all the promises that the Most High has made to Yisrael and his bloodline descendants. We broke down when the Khazars originally converted to Judaism, and we used their own writings and documents and proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that these European impostors, who call themselves Jews and are not, and are the synagogue of Satan, and are not descendants of the Hebrew Israelites, but are in fact Khazars. Ever since the Balfour Declaration was enacted, which allowed these identity thieves to take over our promised land, establish a government, and run it to this day, starting back in 1948, the European Israeli convert has denied that there is no such thing as a Khazar. And they have continued to lie through their lacquer lips and steadfastly proclaim that they are indeed the true Jew. Until now, that is. A leaked report has surfaced out of Israel, where the Israeli government, based on research by Israeli scientists, acknowledges that they are Khazars and that they are not direct bloodline descendants of the ancient black Hebrew Israelites of the Holy Bible. If there's any of y'all that understood what I just said, put a 7 up in her. Because from the time they stepped foot on the soil and were confronted that they wasn't the descendants of Jacob, and that they were indeed Khazars, they denied it, from Golden Meir to David Ben Gurion to them stew-eating kikes that's in the land now. But all of a sudden, when their own Israeli scientists run the DNA tests and tell them that it's 100% true, we are Khazars, now the government of the Israelites are admitting that they are in fact Khazars. Toda Rabbah. And not only that, the leaders of Israeli government, get this, have a secret plan for these Khazar imposters to take part in a reverse migration back to the Ukraine, Poland, Russia, Germany, and wherever the hell else have drawn up secret plans to run like scalded dogs up out of the land of Israel in an effort to save their very lives. We shall also once again show that there are white heathens here in America who know that these Khazars are not the true Hebrews, but are the driving force behind the satanic plan to bring forth the New World Order, and whose hierarchy openly worships Lucifer, and are indeed the synagogue of Satan mentioned in the book of Revelation. Now, if I have you Hebrews' attention and permission to proceed with this lesson, give your brother Jacob a 77 up in this room. Let me know y'all ready to go. Because I'm feeling good like Hebrews should this Shabbat. And I'm here to tell you, spiritual warfare is heating up. And we got to put our big boy boots on and be ready to stand on it. Todah. You Israelites, click on that link right there. Open it up. And if the Mossad over in Tel Aviv will allow you Israelites to open that link up, somebody put a 3 up in her so we can read this together. Because I love using the heathens' own facts to break their very backs. Because I like to get down and dirty when this warfare heats up. I like to let these heathens and these Khazars and all the Gentile nations know that the Most High has kept his word. He's raised up seed out of the natural branch of Zion who gonna stand on his word and gonna bang to the end, my friend. Todah. Headlines from the Times of Israel. Leaked report. Israel acknowledges Jews in fact are Khazars. Secret plan for reverse migration to the Ukraine. Do y'all see this? Our Russian and Ukrainian correspondents Hersh Ostropla and IZ Grosser Spas, a couple of Khazars, also contributed to this story. Delayed due to the crisis over the Crimean referendum. Fast-breaking developments. Followers of Middle Eastern affairs know two things. Always expect the unexpected, and never write off Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who has more political lives than the proverbial cat. Only yesterday came news that Syrian rebels plan to give Israel the Golan Heights in exchange for creation of a no-fly zone against the Assad regime. In an even bolder move, it is now revealed, Israel will withdraw its settlers from communities beyond the settlement blocks and relocate them, at least temporarily, to Ukraine. Ukraine made this arrangement on the basis of historic ties in exchange for desperately needed military assistance against Russia. Snakes of America. Makes sense, don't it, you Hebrews? This surprising turn of events had an even more surprising origin. Genetics, a field in which Israeli scholars have long excelled, a warlike Turkic people and a mystery. It is well known that sometime in the 8th to 9th centuries, the Khazars, a warlike Turkic people, converted to Judaism and ruled over a vast domain in what became southern Russia and Ukraine. What happened to them after the Russians destroyed that empire around the 11th century has been a mystery. Many have speculated that the Khazars became the ancestors of Ashkenazi Jews. Take a look at that map of the Khazar Empire from 1857. Continuing, Arabs have long cited the Khazar hypotheses in attempts to deny a Jewish historical claim to the land of Israel. From the moment those Khazars stepped foot in the land, the Palestinians say, how the hell did the Jews leave black 2,000 years ago and come back white in 1948? They told them, y'all ain't the Israelites, y'all are Khazars. And they denied it up until now. During the UN debate over Palestine partition, Chaim Weissman responded sarcastically, "It is very strange. All my life I have been a Jew, felt like a Jew, and now learn that I am a Khazar." In a more folksy vein, Prime Minister Golda Meir famously said, "Khazar schmazar. There is no Khazar people. I knew no Khazars in Kiev or Milwaukee. Show me these Khazars of whom you speak." Contrarian Hungarian, ex-communist and scientist Arthur Koestler brought the Khazar hypotheses to a wider audience with his blockbusting, shocking book, The 13th Tribe, published back in 1976. In the hope that disproving a common Jewish racial identity would end anti-Semitism. Clearly that hope has not been fulfilled. Most recently, left-wing Israeli historian Shlomo Sands' The Invention of the Jewish People took Koestler's thesis in a direction he had not intended, arguing that because Jews were a religious community descended from converts, they do not constitute a nation or need a state of their own. Scientists, however, dismissed the Khazar hypothesis because that genetic evidence did not add up until now. In 2012, Israeli researcher Aaron Elhak published a study claiming to prove that Khazar ancestry is the single largest element in the Ashkenazi gene pool. Sand declared himself vindicated, and progressive organs such as Haaretz and the Forward trumpeted the results. Israel seems finally to have thrown in the towel. A blue ribbon team of scholars from leading research institutions and museums has just issued a secret report to the government acknowledging that European Jews are in fact Khazars. At first sight, this would seem to be the worst possible news given the Prime Minister's relentless insistence on a need for Palestinian recognition of Israel as a Jewish state and the stagnation of the peace talks. But others have underestimated Benjamin Werder student Netanyahu at their own peril. An aide quipped, "When life hands you an etrog, you build a sukkah." Speaking off the record, this Khazar explained, "We first thought that admitting we are really Khazars was one way to get around Abbas's insistence that no Jew can remain in a Palestinian state. Maybe we are grasping at straws, but when he refused to accept that, it forced us to think about more creative solutions. The Ukrainian invitation for the Jews to return was a godsend. Relocating all the settlers within Israel in a short time would be difficult for reasons of logistics and economics. We certainly don't want another Foshland like the expulsion of the settlers in the Gaza." Speaking on deep background, a well-placed source in intelligence circles, that's the Mossad over there. "We're not talking about all the Ashkenazi Jews going back to Ukraine. Obviously, that is not practical. The press, as usual, exaggerates and sensationalizes. This is why we need military censorship. They trying to keep it a secret over the land, y'all. While the cat is out the bag now. Khazaria 2.0. All Jews who wish to return will be welcomed back without condition as citizens. The more so if they take part in the promised infusion of massive Israeli military assistance, including troops, equipment, and construction of new bases. If the initial transfer works, other West Bank settlers will be encouraged to relocate to Ukraine as well. After Ukraine, boasted by this support, reestablishes control of all its territory, the current autonomous Republic of Crimea would once again become an autonomous Jewish domain, the small-scale successor to the medieval empire of Khazaria, as the peninsula too was once known, would be called in Yiddish Khazaria. Do y'all see this? They going back to their ancestral home. As you know, the spokesman continued, the Prime Minister has said time and again, we are a proud and ancient people whose history here goes back 4,000 years. The same is true of the Khazars, just back in Europe, and not quite as long. But look at the map. The Khazars did not have to live within Auschwitz borders. Look at that map. The great extent of the Khazar Empire, pink at right. That's the Khazar Empire y'all looking at on that map of Europe that's pink over there at the right. This is a map of Europe circa the year 800. It's on display in a museum in Paris and have been since 1841. Continuing. As the Prime Minister has said, no one will tell Jews where they may or may not live on the historic territory of their existence as a sovereign people. He is willing to make painful sacrifices for peace, even if that means giving up part of our biblical homeland in Judea and Samaria. It ain't never been you Khazars' historical homeland. Who you think you're fooling? But then you have to expect us to exercise our historical rights somewhere else. They want their cake and eat it too. Ain't that just like a arrogant, super rich Khazar kike? We decided this will be on the shores of the Black Sea, where we were an autochthonous people for more than 2,000 years. Even the great non-Zionist historian Simon Dubnow said we had the right to colonize Crimea. It's in all the history books. You can look it up. What we've been telling you is in the history books. Y'all ain't the Hebrews. But now that they getting their estate plans in order, they want to agree with everybody now. Ain't that something? I knew it was going to be some good when I made the 13th tribe. I sent and emailed a copy of it to Benjamin Netanyahu, to Shimon Peres, and to the Israeli consulate in Washington, D.C. And here it is, less than 2 years later, they done been broke off clean and proper like. Let's continue. Quote, we like to think of it as sort of a homeland away from home, added an anonymous intelligence source. Or the original one, he said with a wink. After all, Herzl wrote about the old new land, didn't he? And the transition shouldn't be too difficult for the settlers because, you know, they'll still get to feel as if they are pioneers, experiencing danger, constructing new houses, carry weapons. The women can continue to wear scarves on their head, and the food won't be very different from what they already eat. In retrospect, we should have seen this coming, said a venerable State Department Arabist, ticking off the signs on his fingers. A little notice report that Russia was cracking down on Israeli smuggling of Khazar artifacts. The decisions of both Spain and Portugal to give citizenship to descendants of their expelled Jews, as well as evidence that former IDF soldiers were already leading militias in support of the Ukrainian government. It's already Israeli defense forces on the ground in the Ukraine, assisting the Ukrainian military against Vladimir Putin and the Russian mob that then rushed in. And now also maybe the possibility that the mission Malaysian jet was diverted to Central Asia. What? A veteran Middle East journalist said it's problematic, but in a perverse way brilliant. In one fell swoop, Bibi Netanyahu has managed to confound friend and foe alike. He's put the ball back in the Palestinians' court and relieved the pressure from the Americans without actually making any real concessions. Meanwhile, by lining up with the Syrian rebels in Ukraine, as well as Georgia and Azerbaijan, he compensates for the loss of the Turkish alliance and puts pressure on both Assad and Iran. And the new Cypriot-Israeli gas deal props up Ukraine and weakens the economic leverage of both the Russian and the Gulf oil states. Just brilliant. That old Bibi Netanyahu slides a fox, ain't he? Reactions from around the world. Given the confluence of the weekend and the Purim and St. Patrick's Day holidays, reporters scrambled to get responses. Reactions from around the world trickled in. Members of the Yesha Council of Settlers, some of them evidently the worse for wear after too much festival slivets, were caught completely off guard, always wary of Netanyahu, whom they regard as a slick opportunist rather than reliable ideological ally. They refused to comment until they further assessed the situation. Most of the hastily offered reactions fell into the predictable categories. Right-wing anti-Semitic groups pounce on the story as vindication of their conspiracy theories, claiming that this was a culmination of the Jews' century-old plan to avenge the defeat of Khazaria by the Russians in the Middle Ages. A reprise of Israel's support for Georgia in 2008. Jews have memories as long as their noses, one declared. From Ramallah, a Fatah spokesman said the offer was a start but did not go nearly far enough towards satisfying Palestinian demands. Holding up an image of a Khazar warrior from an archaeological artifact, he explained, "This is a continuum of conquest and cruelty. It's very simple. Genetics does not lie. We see the results today. The Zionist regime and brutal occupation forces are descended from warlike barbarians." Correct! These Khazars are warlike barbarians. Palestinians are descended from peaceful pastoralists. Oh, y'all just want to do a little goat farming, do you? Well, it ain't you dog-faced Palestinians' land either. Crawl your Mohammedism. You move vomit and that fool, crawl back to Mecca. Because we going to run you out of there too. Palestinians are descended from peaceful pastoralists. In fact, from the ancient Israelites that you have falsely claimed as your ancestors. Now, y'all ain't from one of the 12 tribes of Jacob. Where the hell you get that from? Or I guess y'all want to claim the promised land too, huh? By the way, it is not true, however, that your ancestors ever had a temple in Jerusalem. Y'all take a look at this picture of this Khazarian barbarian, a warrior with his prisoner. Look at this Israeli border policeman provided for you on this article, handling this Palestinian protester. Kind of look like how that barbarian above him, that Khazar ancestor is handling his prisoner too. My. The more things change, the more they stay the same. The famously reliable unofficial intelligence website DAFT Kafal admitted, boy, our faces red. We were caught flat-footed and thought that the return to Spain and Portugal was the real story. Obviously, that was an impeccably planned and clever feint to distract attention from the coming revolution in Ukraine. Nicely played, Mossad. Prolific blogger Richard the Edomite Kike Silverstein. Oh no, Sliverstein. He slivers like a snake. Richard Sliverstein, whose knowledge of Jewish culture and uncanny ability to ferret out military secrets regularly provoke astonishment even among his critics. This is what Sliverstein commented. Frankly, I'm surprised that my Mossad sources did not get this story to me first. But I've been up against a deadline for an essay on the Kabbalistic significance of sesame seeds, the main ingredient in hummus, so I haven't caught up on my email. But do I feel vindicated? Well, yes, but it's scant satisfaction. I've been saying for years that the Jews are descended from mongrel Tatar Khazars, but it's barely made a dent in the propaganda armor of these Zionist Hasbara dolts. An official of a leading human rights organization said, evacuating illegal settlements must be part of any peace deal. But first forcing settlers to leave Palestine and then resettling them in Ukraine may be a violation of the Fourth Geneva Convention. We'll see what the ICC has to say about this. And if they think they can be even more trigger-happy in Ukraine than the West Bank, they have another thing coming. Ultra-Orthodox spokesman Menachem Yontef, formerly of Enroclaw, welcomed the news. What? We reject the Zionist state, which is illegitimate until Messiah comes. Khazar Kike, he came 2,000 years ago. His name is Yahushua HaMashiach, and he's a black Hebrew Israelite who you Khazars will never accept. The lake of fire awaits you. What else you got to say, Menachem Yontef? We don't care where we live, as long as we can study the Torah and eat latkes and continue to lie and call ourselves Jews and obey its commandments in full. However, we refuse to serve in the military there as well as here. And we also want subsidies. Oh, y'all want welfare too? Man, they want everything. The spokesman for a delegation of Episcopalian peace activists reached out to the Christ at the Checkpoint conference in Bethlehem, said with tears in her eyes, we applaud this consistency of principle. If only all Jews would think like Menachem Yontef. In fact, I like to call them Menachem Yontef Jews. M-Y Jews for short. Then anti-Semitism would disappear and members of all three Abrahamic faiths would again live together peacefully, here as they did before the advent of Zionism. The nation state is a relic of the 19th century, which has caused untold suffering. The most urgent task for world peace is the immediate creation of a free and sovereign Palestine. It ain't happening. There will never be no peace in the so-called Middle East. Y'all bookmark this link and finish reading the article on your own. Come on back up into the room. If y'all truly understood the content of the article that you just read, of a leaked report out of Israel via the Israeli media, that the plans are already drawn up and that these lying through their locker lips, calling themselves Jews, that they admitted that their own scientists have proven via DNA testing that they are in fact Khazars, and they have escape plans to run back to their Khazarian ancestral home. If y'all clearly understood this Shabbat, give me a hallelujah 1,000 up in this room, please. Somebody. Toda Rabbah. Because I'm here to tell you, Hebrews, them Edomites would have rather ate a double feces sandwich with extra cheese and mayonnaise than to admit that they are in fact don't have a drop of the blood of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in them. Todah. I've been waiting on this news for a long time, you Hebrews, and y'all truly can't understand the significance of this. If they have in fact confessed they're not the people of this book, that begs the question, who is? Well, guess what? Just as I told y'all the day was coming, that them Khazars was going to be forced, and that was the purpose of me doing that lesson back in August 2012, almost 2 years ago, the 13th tribe. I'm telling y'all right now, we are just that much closer to these heathens and these Khazars admitting that we are the bloodline descendants, the ancient black Hebrew Israelites of the book. We are this close to the Vatican in Rome opening up their catacombs and showing where the disbursement of the other 10 tribes took place and revealing to the world our true identity, just as it is written. Now get this. There are heathens here in America now who can't quite get their minds wrapped around that day is coming. We got so-called preachers and patriots of the heathen who are discussing these matters unbeknownst to Hebrew Israelites worldwide.
Okay, back with text. Now, last time we talked about the Ashkenazim, the Khazarian hypothesis. You want to carry on with that some, Tex, and then we can talk about AIPAC perhaps a little bit too.
Sure. Well, we talked about the new study, and this is something that is absolutely imperative for everyone to get in their gut and to understand, because DNA is science. Now, you know, DNA began in '68 with the British scientists Watson and Crick, but now it's spread. And you and I, you can, for $99, you can get a DNA kit and find out your own DNA, where you came from, by percentages. So This is very easily done now. So various scientists are now trying to determine, well, where we all came from, what the various nations, what races and bloodlines and all that. And everybody's sort of, ferreting things out now. It's new, it's astonishing. But DNA is absolute science. It's like 1,000,000,000 to 1 that it would be, incorrect.
Incorrect,
Absolute
right.
truth.
Right.
Now, in 2001, Ariella Oppenheim, a professor of biology at Hebrew University, she's Jewish, she did a study of the Jews, people who call themselves Jews, wherever they're at in the world. And she discovered that they're not Israelites at all. They're not descendants of Abraham, but that they came from the Khazars. Now, this sort of, the impact somehow or other didn't get through. And then 2012, just 3 months ago or so, Dr. Aaron Elhike, another Jew, it seems like the Jews are very interested in this, a professor, a doctor at Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. They have a genetics institute there. He's a fellow. And he did a more complete and definitive study. And it is absolutely 100%. I mean, DNA is science. And he found that the Jews of this world, there are like 17.5, 18 million Jews throughout the world, 7.5 million in Israel. He discovered that almost all of them are Khazars. They came from the Khazar family. It's a mosaic of bloodlines from the Caucasus in southern Russia. There was a great kingdom of Khazaria back until the 8th century, the 700s, when their king Bulan had all of the people who were basically pagans. They worshiped the phallus of all things, which is one of the reasons for the Kabbalah being so strong in sexual areas.
Mm-hmm.
But he had his people convert from paganism to Judaism. Sort of an interesting thing. And so suddenly the Jews, who of course had been thrown out of Israel all those many years before, around 600 years before, suddenly this entire nation of Khazarians, who, if you ask what is a Khazarian is basically Turkish. He's from Turkey, but also you have some Hun in him, the Hungarian. You have the Georgians and the Iranians. All those are sort of a mixture in that area. But mostly it's Turkish. Also there's some Mongols, because Genghis Khan fought them for a long time, and they had the Chinese blood sort of mixed a little bit. But then Russia began to war with Khazaria and defeated them in a great war, and so many of them that were Jews fled. Now remember, they were never in Israel. They're not descendants of Abraham. They have no connection with the land. They're not of the family of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They've never been to Jerusalem. There's no bloodline whatsoever. But they did convert to Judaism. But like so many tribal peoples, they kept a lot of their tribal stuff with them. And I believe that's the reason for the Kabbalah, the Jewish religion, not being the Old Testament, but also including all of these strange gods and goddesses and things that we have today.
Makes perfect sense. Good, yeah.
One of the things they worshiped was the phallus. And now today in Judaism, the male phallus is a very big symbol. And it's used in all kinds of ways in the Jewish religion. So this is what you have, these people went into Hungary, to Czechoslovakia, into France, but mostly into Poland. There were around 3 million Khazars in Poland at the beginning of World War II. And they lost, they didn't really have a language as such. They had Khazar language. They didn't know Hebrew at all. They knew only the rudimentary things about the Jewish religion, but they put it all together and they called themselves Jews. So this is what, when somebody asks them, what are you, they say Jewish. So over time, they forgot where they came from,
but
which is
not,
true
see,
of most Americans, by the way.
Yeah, what Tex is saying here is they are not Semitic peoples. So when these Khazars, which compose, 95% or more of the people on the planet that call themselves Jewish, when the Khazars throw around that smear, you're an anti-Semite, they're not even talking about themselves. It's
That's
absurd.
funny, isn't it?
Oh, that's absurd. 0.2%, 0.2% of the world population calls itself Jewish.
Yeah, that's the small. And then those, probably less than 2%, actually are predominantly Jewish. There has never been in history found a pure Jew, a 100% Jew. And that's because, well, there's no such thing as a Jew. There is no such race existing in the whole world as a Jew. Now, Dr. Elhike found this, and his article, which was published by Oxford University Press, it was also in the Journal of Molecular Biology and Evolution. So it's sort of a high up type of academic scientific study. But he was interviewed by Haaretz, the daily newspaper of Israel. And Dr. Elhike said, number one, he said, this is science. He said he didn't know there was a controversy. They told him, well, this is going to be very controversial. He said, well, how could it be controversial? It's science. Well, he didn't know the Jews, did he?
Certainly didn't.
They're going to make it very controversial.
Yeah. Well, it always amuses, we have to take a break here, but it always amuses me when they start talking about anti-Semitism and all that, and that the Jews are a race. You're racist if you don't. It's so much of a scam, the whole thing. There were more Jews in Europe at the end of World War II than there were when the war broke out. Do your research. I've got a story up, Red Cross, the official Red Cross statistics. Prove it. All right? Back in a minute with Tech. Okay, back with Tex. Talking about very important things. Remember, all the names tell the story, and not all Jews or adoptive Jews. Remember, they weren't even Jewish or didn't call themselves Jewish until, what was it, 702 or 703 A.D., something like that, Tex.
That's right. And so, in 1948, when Israel began as a modern nation, the Polish Jews almost, they almost moved en masse to Israel. And so they had to change their names, and they all took upon themselves Israelite names. David Ben-Gurion from Poland was the first prime minister. He had a Polish name. Shimon Peres, who's still around now, he is from Poland. So it was basically made up of Polish Khazars that had no relationship at all. Their ancestors had never been to Israel. So when Netanyahu, says, "Oh, we've had this, God gave us this land,"
thousands of years ago, it's a bald-faced lie. This is disgusting. It is,
and so I've made up a chart of 10 characteristics that the Jews call themselves. They believe themselves to be Israelites. Of course, now the Bible covers this. The Bible warns us of them which say they are Jews and are not, but of the synagogue of Satan. Here are the 10 things, and think about these things. By use of these 10 characteristics, they have convinced the world to give them the nation of Israel, to defend it. And now the American Christians believe that they're the true Israelites and that we must defend them and give them money and all these things. First of all, the so-called Jews or Khazars say we're God's chosen people. Well, no, they're not. That was the Israelites. They say, well, the land is ours. God gave it to us 5,000 years ago. Well, that's not true because the Khazars didn't exist back then.
Whoops.
Yeah, exactly. Whoops. There were, they didn't exist. The the language and the Hebrew alphabet was not theirs. In fact, they had sort of a, what do you call it, a jack language. It was Yiddish. That's where Yiddish came from.
Exactly.
It came from Khazaria. By the way, the six-pointed star also was taken up by the Khazar people. But here's the key. When a person writes to you and says, we must help the Jews, we must do what they say, they are the seed of Abraham. Obviously, the seed is the physical seed, by bloodline. They're neither the bloodline nor the seed. They're the seed of King Bulan and the people of Khazaria. That's all there is to it. Their bloodline does not go back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They have no connection to Jerusalem. Jews all over the world say, next year, Jerusalem, next. Well, they have no connection with Jerusalem. Finally, they're really not a Judaic people because they have abandoned the Old Testament, and the Khazars are Kabbalists for the most part, and they have a very strange religion that I explain very carefully and quote the rabbis in my new book, Conspiracy of the Six-Pointed Star. But I want to say that the main attribute of their religion is that they worship the great serpent. They worship the great serpent as Messiah. They believe they're their own Messiah, but that they will be uplifted and given the position of, they will be conquerors of the world and be our masters by the great serpent. And the great serpent is the one biting his own tail. And you'll see him in many symbols,
right,
dating back to
right,
to the Jews. So these are the characteristics. Now, not a one of them trace back to the Khazars. So it would be almost like, I'm a Texan, right? I was born here in Texas. Now, to be very honest, we took this from the Mexicans, no doubt about it, from the 1830s or whatever. Now, when the Mexicans come back and say, we want Texas for ourselves, we object. We say no. But what if a bunch of, say, Irishmen came over? And they had never had any connection with Texas. They were always Irishmen. They came over and they said, you know what? We're not Irishmen. We're Texans. Our ancestors were Texans. God gave us this land. We're the seed of, of Davy Crockett and Sam Houston. Well, we'd kick them out of here. We'd say, you're crazy. You're a bunch of Irishmen.
Right.
I mean, but this is the kind of insanity that goes on. These people have the gall to go to Israel and say, I'm a Jew. Well, they're not a member of any of the 12 tribes.
Tex, in short, it is the greatest religious hoax of all time, perhaps.
Well, Arthur Kessler said exactly that. That's very, very interesting. He said this is a great hoax. Arthur Kessler wrote his book in 1976, The 13th Tribe.
Right.
And Kessler, he was, but you know what? He was spurned. He was cast down. The Jews said to him, now they will not believe us. Now they'll want the land back. Now the Arabs will say, you're not even Jews. Get out of here. So they really, Kessler was, he actually killed himself. He had medical problems, it's true. Mm-hmm. But in 7 years, 6.5 years after he wrote his book, which was celebrated, by the way, except by the Jews wouldn't have it. Now, he wrote his book based on history and archaeology. But now we have DNA. No one can deny this. And by the way, the Palestinians have as much or more Israelite blood in them than the Jews do, the so-called Jews.
Oh, now, they have more.
Yes, and so they're killing the Palestinians, who are the real Israelites.
Yeah.
Now, this is what is absolutely sickening to me, that Christians are approving. I talk to Christians all the time. They say, well, the Palestinians don't have any connection with the land. And I say, they've been there for 2,000 years. No, God gave it to the Jews.
No.
Before they were ever there.
The Palestinians are the Semitic Jews of the planet.
You know what is funny? They are. That's right. You know what is really strange to me? In their Talmud, which is their holy book, even above the Old Testament, the Jews say that all Gentiles are goyim, they're cattle. Now, they're Gentiles too. The truth is they are not Israelites, they're Gentiles. But they read this book and imagine in their minds that they are the ancient Israelites, and everyone else is just nothing but an insect. We're just a bunch of cattle to them. But they're Gentiles, and they don't even realize that they're pronouncing a fate for themselves.
Exactly.
They're saying, you Gentiles. Well, they're the Gentiles.
Exactly.
It is an astonishing thing.
What a scam. What a scam.
By the way, the King Bulan was the great king who converted his country of Khazaria. And the kings, like they call Caesar or the Tsar, the Roman Caesars. Well, they call the kings of Khazaria the Kagan. The Kagan. So the Kagan is a very popular name among Jews. And when you hear a person say, I'm Kagan, and we have a Supreme Court
Justice. That's right.
She's named Kagan. She is definitely, not an Ashkenazi Jew. By the way, there's another element to this that is absolutely incredible. I've done some research over the last few days on how a person can take a DNA test to find out what races they are. No one is pure. Everybody is a mixture, we find out. For $99, or maybe up to $150, anyone can order a kit, and you can, take a little sample and send it back to them in the whatever they've given you. And in 2 weeks' time, they'll come back with a composite. This is what you are. Anyone can find out what their blood is.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the whole thing about it. They don't tell you if you're a Khazar.
Huh.
And that's right. And I discovered, there was a story about a man who discovered that he was an Ashkenazi Jew.
Mm-hmm.
He never knew he was Jewish. Well, it came back that he was 23%, which was the most, Ashkenazi Jew. Well, come to find out, all of the DNA labs in America do this. They refuse to tell you whether you're a Khazar or not. They could, but they won't do it. That's why it has to be done, especially by Dr. Oppenheim or Dr. L. Hike at these high-level genetics institutes at the universities. They will tell you, though, if you're an Ashkenazi Jew. What is that? It simply means this, that your blood is a composite of Turkish, Mongol, Iranian, Georgian, and Han. That's all it means. But they'll tell you you're an Ashkenazi Jew. Well, many Americans are discovering that they're an Ashkenazi Jew. And some of them are excited about it, and some of them are very upset about it. But they don't realize that an Ashkenazi Jew is actually a Khazar, which is a Turkish, Mongol, Iranian, Georgian, Han. By the way, they're now performing a DNA research study to find out how many of the Iranians are actually of the Israelites. It seems that many of the Iranians might well be, Israelites, and Mexicans also, and Spanish, or many of them are too. So it's really DNA science is going to just knock the dickens out of all of these myths and fairy tales that we've had for so long.
They got more things to try to sweep under the rug is what they've got.
Well, they do. That's true.
They'll do that. By the way, the leadership in Mexico is essentially Jewish. They're European. They're Khazars. They've adopted Spanish names. But if you look at the top levels of the Mexican government, is a tremendous majority that are Jews. So they basically own and operate Mexico. This was found out by a Mexican nationalist newspaper publication in Los Angeles. And the editor was a big Mecha, take it back, kick the gringos out guy. And he went down there and did some research, and he found out that the Mexican government wasn't indigenous Mexican. They were Jews from Europe.
Isn't that something?
He blew the whistle on that. Anyway, Tex, a remarkable presentation as always. Thank you very much, and I look forward to our next conversation.
Well, thank you, Jeff. It's been great being with you tonight.
Okay, be well. Take care.
Okay, God bless. Bye-bye.
TexMars.com. That's Tex with an E on the end of it, T-E-X-E, TexMars.com. And really, if you just liked what you heard, by all means, go to the site and look, and there's some amazing things to buy and share and learn about. Okay, that's hour one. We'll come right back with more after this short timeout.
All right, y'all, come on back up in the room. Y'all might want to bookmark that link along with the article for your future reference, your future study. If y'all clearly understood this so-called Christian preacher who puts out a blog called The Power of Prophecy Ministry, old Tex Mars, a cracker preacher out of Texas, who want to holler that the Palestinian is the real Hebrew. If y'all clearly understood that these heathens are waking up and clearly know, y'all heard that one heathen say it's the biggest, greatest religious hoax in the history of mankind. If y'all clearly understood what y'all just heard via that link, give your brother Jacob another hallelujah 1,000 up in her, please. Let me know y'all rolling with me this Shabbat. Where them thousands flying across this screen, hallelujah. Now I want to provide y'all with a little 8-minute clip where y'all gonna see this same Tex Mars speaking with one of the biggest heathen American patriots breathing oxygen in America. None other than Alex Jones of Infowars.com. Alex Jones love America, y'all. He know that the government, he's one of them heathens that call our government ZOG, which stands for Z-O-G. It's an acronym which means Zionist Occupied Government. They know that these Khazars are running America. Tex Mars went on Alex Jones' show and did this interview y'all are about to watch. It's only 7 minutes long. But it's important for you Hebrews to understand. Listen how Alex Jones will try to say that the Sephardic Jews out of Spain, oh, those are the real Israelites. See, these heathens, they know that the Khazar is not the Hebrew Israelites. It's going to kill them when the Pope of Rome himself comes out and say who the original Israelites are out of Judah and Benjamin residing in America. Who the tribe is they took up out of Ethiopia via Operation Moses and Operation Solomon that look just like you and me. And where the other tribes are scattered throughout the diaspora. But it's important for y'all to see this before they admit that, so that y'all could see that that's the last thing these heathens want to do. Let's watch old Tex Mars and Alex Jones discuss the startling revelations that the so-called Jews who occupy our land and run its government are now admitting that in fact they are Khazars.
You know, when somebody says, why don't you expose the Catholics or the Jews or whatever? Of course, there's evil in all these things. But, you know, it's like so much evil in so little time, you know, that you've got to do here. You know, Henry Kissinger called up a columnist for the New York Post. This was about 2 months ago. And he said, I would like for something to be on the front page of your newspaper, a quote from me. She said, okay. Betsy, one of her names, you can get the New York Post.
Sure, I saw it.
And he said, in 10 years, Israel will not exist. That's all. That's all he wanted to say. But he wanted to tell the whole world. Because in the Jewish Kabbalah and Talmud, you tell people what you're going to do before you do it. If you're going to murder somebody, you tell them beforehand.
Well, that's like Indians counting coup.
Yeah, that relieves you of the guilt of doing it, according to this theory. So he's saying in 10 years there will be no Israel. What does that mean? They just came out with a new DNA study by Dr. Ilan Elhaik of St. John's Hopkins School of Medicine, one of the most distinguished schools in America. He's Jewish. He says that there is no Jewish people, that all of the Jews in the world came from the Khazars and such. Now, there have been other genetic studies on this. In other words, no one living in Israel today has ancestors who came from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Except for the Sephardic Jews of Middle Eastern Jews.
But those are less than 2% of the Jews. In fact, the Palestinians are more Israelite than the Jews are.
But by the way, it was Sephardic Jews they radiated.
Yeah, and by the way, now Obama's going.
Why would the Israelis want to kill Jews that are genetically like the truly ancient Jews?
Well, they're the Ashkenazi Jews. You know, it's a long story. The Ashkenazi Jews are the Khazars. They're not Israelites. The Sephardi, many of them are. Those that stayed in the Middle East are. So the people, when Netanyahu says God gave us the title of this land, 5,000 years ago, no such thing. His ancestors came from Khazaria. So
there's been new genetic research showing that's a true theory.
So this just came.
The 13th tribe's been confirmed. I didn't know that.
Yeah, Arthur Kessler, the poor guy died. Some say he was murdered. He was a very good Zionist Jew, and he wrote the 13th tribe. He said they came. All of the historians and archaeologists have always said this. I wanted to know.
That's around Georgia.
Yeah, I wanted to know the truth. I wanted to say, well, what is the truth on this? Well, now we have DNA evidence that says the Jews are converts. They're pagans who converted to Judaism. They do not. Their bloodlines do not go back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And not only that, but Dr. Elhaik, who is Jewish, who is a real fighter there, he says there's no doubt about it. It's science. So what happens? What do all the Christians do? I want to say this. Henry Kissinger knew of this study. He knows of this. I think well,
no, it's really chic to hate Israel, and I see them building it up, Antichrist stuff. He claims to be and then kills them. this is crazy.
Right. The elite.
That's what I'm saying. It's more sophisticated.
The elite have latched on to Israel as a tactic, as a strategy.
Like I saw America's plunging in the polls. They have us do the dirty work, then they destroy us.
Absolutely. Look, the Rothschilds and the others are Sabbatean Jews. They worship Satan. They don't worship the Bible. They have a serpent that they worship. I know this sounds fantastic. Of course it is. But that
was because of that ancient area north of Georgia. That was the.
Right, Kazakhstan, Georgia, all those areas in there. Those people migrated over to Europe. There were 3 million Polish people. Now, when Israel was formed, David Ben-Gurion, the first prime minister, was a Polish guy. Shimon Peres is Polish. That wasn't even their names. They changed their names to sound like they were Israelites. So we have a nation of imposters. But it would be wrong of us to hate these people. It would be wrong of us to not get the right idea here. The right idea is this. These people have been used. They have been used for foul purposes. They have been used to set up a bastion in the Middle East. But they will be dealt with. They'll be destroyed once the New World Order has...
Now, why is Saudi Arabia so precious? They are just hands off. We've never seen such attacks when we criticize Saudi Arabia. And that's when when you're over the target, you get the flag.
Well, yeah, it's interesting that the 9/11 people, 17 of the 19 came...
look how Al-Qaeda comes out of there, but we never hear about that, and how they're using Saudi Arabia to take over Libya and Syria. Are they planning a big clash, too, that Pike talked about with the Muslims, too?
Yeah, well, Pike was an interesting character who had the plan. And he said basically the plan is that there will be a great clash between the Muslims, the Christians, with the Jews sort of sitting on the sideline, but they'll be destroyed too. So that atheism will be the true religion, and Lucifer will be the one we worship. And I think that's the key here. We have to understand these people do not worship the Old Testament. And I'm talking about the Illuminati elite. They don't worship the Old Testament. They don't believe in the Old Testament at all. They have the Kabbalah. I mean, you know, when you see Madonna with her little red band, Bill Clinton has it. Britney Spears has a little red a wristband. They're into the Kabbalah. They're not into the Old Testament. They're not into...
That's mysticism picked up in Egypt, Babylon, and then the Khazars.
It absolutely is. That's where it all comes from.
And it's admittedly that.
Admittedly.
And that's all Raiders of the Lost Ark. And that's what drives me crazy. We're informed. People say there's no Illuminati. It's in history books. And everything, you know, and it's just so, I want everybody, no matter what, black child, Jewish child, German child, Chinese child, to not jump off suicide nets. I just want a future text. I know that's what you want. Amazing. We'll have to have you back on a history lesson on that, because I find it fascinating. And you know, the way I've described it is, I don't like any of the racist groups. I don't like the racist Jewish mafia that's attacking me all the time, the ADL. I don't like the Mexican mafia attacking me. I don't like the you know, Muslim groups that say I'm horrible because I don't say kill all the Jews. I don't like you know, it's like I don't like Hitler. I don't like Stalin. I don't like the British royalty. I don't like Che Guevara. You know, so often it's like, well, this group's bad, so you must like Che, or America's corrupt, so well, you know, why isn't Hugo Chavez good?
Yeah.
Well, compared to a lot of dictators, he wasn't that bad, but he stole a lot of property and stuff from poor people. Even, you know, I mean, it's just the real world. You got to have discernment. You got to have nuance. You got to have history. And I'm just coming in at 39 into being able to really start figuring things out. And it's just to an elitist, they get off on the general public being like deaf, dumb, and blind people who can't even communicate, and then they use that to control them. And I want to empower them, but I think, do you agree a lot of it is spiritual? You know, God has to touch them.
Spiritual. Here's the real question. Why was Henry Kissinger protected when he said Israel will not exist in 10 years? Remember, he's Jewish. Well, why was he not attacked by the press? How dare he say...
If Ahmadinejad say that, they'd say nuking.
Oh, well, they would say, look, he's got a plan. He wants to kill us all. He wants to bring back the Holocaust. But Henry Kissinger said it. Nobody asked a thing. He just says it, and you're supposed to accept it. Well, I don't accept it. I want to know what...
Y'all come on back up into the room. Now let's review what we've seen on these two videotapes. On the first one, on the radio interview, Tex Mars gave a little of the history of these so-called white Jews who are in fact Khazars. He admitted that in 2001 a Jew scientist told him that they were Khazars, and that in 2012 another white Jew at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine did a DNA study discovering these so-called European Jews are in fact Khazars. He then gave the Khazar history and admits these imposter Jews had nothing to do with our black ancestors, and that they are not a Semitic people, even though they love to throw around the word anti-Semitic. And here it is, they not even from the seed of Shem. I hope y'all notice how both of them heathens in the first video, while readily agreeing that these Khazars are imposter Jews, they wanted to try to say that the Palestinian dog faces could possibly be the true Hebrews breathing oxygen right now. Wrong answer. Mars made mention how the Polacks, David Ben-Gurion, and Shimon Peres, who were both born over in Poland, made their moves to Israel from Poland, and they changed their names to try to hide their Khazar heritage. Mars made it crystal clear that these Khazars have no connection to Jerusalem and practice a satanic religion where they worship the great serpent, who is none other than Lucifer, better known as Satan the devil. Mars and that radio host off the first video clip that we watched, they called it the greatest religious hoax of all time. Not my words, you Hebrews. Y'all heard these heathens say these things. Now again, I hope y'all understand the reluctance of these heathens, now that they know 100% crystal clear that them Khazars are not the Israelites, how they want to try to put it off on anybody but who we truly are. But I'm sure y'all picked that up the first time you heard it. And let me put this out there worldwide. These dog-faced Palestinians are Muslim mongrels who have never called upon the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and who have never recognized Yahushua HaMashiach as our holy Messiah. If y'all agree with Brother Jacob on that, put an 88 up in her. So how could these so-called Christians wrap their mind around that they the Israelites, and they don't even call upon the Elohim of our ancestors? Todah Rabbah, continuing. They went on to continue to rip the Khazars as being Gentile heathens like they are, and the satanic practices that they continue to teach and do out of that satanic Talmud and practicing of Kabbalahism. Now, on that second video clip we watch of old Tex Moss with the great American patriot Alex Jones, in that video, we saw that the former United States Secretary of State Henry Kissinger announced that in 10 years there will be no more Israel. Why? Because they are going to take off running like the Khazar dogs that they are when it looks like destruction is about to fall upon them. In other words, Kissinger was telling the world about the secret escape plans of these Khazars to run back to their ancestral lands. Mars reiterated how these so-called Jews are in fact Satan worshippers and are a nation full of imposters. Tex Mars and Alex Jones know that these Khazars are the driving force behind the Illuminati and the New World Order, and are purely Luciferians. Now let's ask ourselves, what in the world would make the Israeli government and its leaders now admit that they are Khazars and to set up an escape plan out of the Holy Land? We can see the answer to that in the headlines in today's news. The wild man Ishmael and his descendants are fulfilling Bible prophecy before our very eyes at this hour in world history. In the book of Genesis, we witness the birth of Ishmael and receive a prophecy concerning him. Let's go to the book of Genesis, chapter 16, verses 1 through 12. And with all your getting, you Hebrews, get you understanding. In the book of Genesis, chapter 16, verses 1 through 12, we read, Now Sarah, Abram's wife, bare him no children, and she had a handmaid, an Egyptian, a black African Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. And Sarah said unto Abram, Behold now, Yah hath restrained me from bearing. I pray thee, go in unto my maid. It may be that I may obtain children by her. And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarah. And Sarah Abram's wife took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife. And he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. This black African Egyptian belly swole up with child was just prancing all in front of Sarah. Oh, I'm so fruitful and gonna multiply, and you just an old dried up old fig sitting over in that corner. Abram loved me, 'cause I'm gonna give suck. Y'all know that caused some problems, don't you? Oh, it caused all manner of problem up in those tents. Continuing. Verse 5. And Sarah said unto Abram, my wrong be upon thee. I have given this heifer, my maid into thy bosom. And when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. Y'all judge between me and thee. Boy, Sarah's lips was tight. I hear you, great grandma. I know you was. But Abram said unto Sarah, behold, thy maid is in thy hand. Do to her as it pleaseth thee. And when Sarah dealt hardly with her, pow! Slapped her so hard she thought she was shot. Told her to get the hell up out them tents. Y'all know how you do black women when you get mad. You Hebrew women get mad, it's some trouble. It's some trouble, y'all, I'm telling you. And when Sarah dealt hardly with her, she fled from her face. And the angel of the Most High Yah found her by a fountain of water in the wilderness, by the fountain in the way to Shur. And he said, Hagar, Sarah's maid, whence camest thou, and whither wilt thou go? And she said, I'll flee from the face of my mistress Sarah. And the angel of the Most High said unto her, return to thy mistress, and submit thyself under her hands. And the angel of Yah said unto her, I will multiply thy seed exceedingly, that it shall not be numbered for multitude. And the angel of the Most High said unto her, behold, thou art with child, and shalt bear a son, and shalt call his name Ishmael, because Yah hath heard thy affliction. And he will be a wild man. His hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him. And he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren. He shall be a wild man. His hand against every man, and every man's hand against him. Fast forward to 2014 on the Roman calendar. Ishmael is the father of the Arab race. The predominant religion of the Arabs is Islam, a man-made religion created by the Roman Catholic Church to bring the sons of Ishmael under their control, that they can no longer control, because they clean out of control. He will be a wild man, his hand against every man, and every man's hand against him. Now let's take a look at how this wild man is causing chaos and carnage all over the world. From headlines from this week. Let me pull a link up in here for you Hebrews. I want y'all to pull this link open. If them human hyenas will allow y'all to open this link up, we're about to bear witness that the wild man is doing his thing, even as we seek, you Hebrews. Somebody click on this link right here. Y'all open it up. Few of y'all come on back up in the room. Give your brother Jacob a 9. Let me know that the CIA out of Langley, Virginia, let y'all open it up down here in Babylon in America. And y'all put a 9 up in here, you Israelites over in the land, if the Mossad down there in Tel Aviv will allow y'all to open this article up. Todah Rabbah. Here we go. The wild man Ishmael is causing chaos and carnage all over the world, fulfilling the prophecy we just read about Ishmael and his descendants being a wild man, hand against every man and every man hand against him. Dateline. My husband told them we were Christians and they shot him in the head. How Al-Shabaab militia went from door to door killing non-Muslims as Kenyan village watched the World Cup. Kenya attack happened as residents watched World Cup matches last night. Authorities have blamed Al-Shabaab, Somalia's Al-Qaeda-linked terror group. Assault happened in Pakatoni, which is 60 miles from the Somali border. Witnesses say gunmen went door to door asking if residents spoke Somali. If the answer was no, they shot them dead on the doorstep. Images of Iraqi men being shot dead in a ditch by ISIS militants shock world. Taliban insurgents hack off the fingers of 11 men for voting in general election. Search continues for 3 Israeli teens kidnapped by Hamas in Palestine. Former Nigerian president says those kidnapped schoolgirls may never be found. The wild man has had a busy week, y'all. Somali militants who murdered 48 people in a Kenyan village as they watched the World Cup went door to door asking residents if they were Muslim or spoke Somali and shot them dead if either answer was no. Witnesses revealed today. Y'all scroll down. Look at them stacking them dead bodies stiff as a board. That's what the wild man doing down there up in northern Africa. Scroll down. At least 48, look at that picture. At least 48 people were killed in a raid and 2 hotels were set on fire before the gunmen fled into surrounding undergrowth. Is that chaos and carnage or what? Scroll down. Look how they got them bodies stacked up in this house in Kenya. Residents look at slain bodies of people killed when unidentified gunmen attacked the coastal Kenyan town of Mpakatoni, the latest in a string of Islamic militant attacks across 2 continents that have shocked the world. Scroll down. Look at them feet sticking out of there. Them bodies are piled high. Continue to scroll down, you Hebrews. Look at their handiwork. Continue to scroll down. They got human bodies laying in the dust like dung. Continue to scroll down. Look at this poor Hamite laying there, feet just twisted. Look at the faces of those Hamites looking at him, or this man laying on the ground. They scared to death. Scroll down. Look at those pictures. Bear witness this Shabbat that indeed Ishmael and the spirit of his man-made religion is out of control. I want y'all to scroll all the way down to Iraq. That picture showing these ISIS militants in Iraq. Look at the images of Iraqi men being rounded up at gunpoint, beaten, herded into lorries, and shot dead in a ditch in the desert by a row of mass ISIS fanatics. This image sent shockwaves across the world. Scroll down to the picture below that. In Afghanistan, Taliban insurgents sliced off the fingers of 11 people as punishment for voting in Afghanistan's democratic presidential election, while 60 people were killed in a series of rocket barrages and scattered attacks. Look at these poor elderly men here. Fingers viciously cut off. Which finger did you use to vote? Which finger? And look at their faces. You know what that one's saying right there on the left? I'll never vote again. And you see that one that's looking away, you know what he said? Me either. And can you blame these poor folks? I'm telling y'all, this wild man is out of control. Y'all come on back up in the room. If y'all agree with your brother Jacob that the wild man is clean out of control, and the prophecies that we read in Genesis 16 is true in this hour, at this time in the world's history, put a 77 up in here for me, if y'all agree with your brother Jacob. Because I'm here to tell y'all, they are indeed wild men. Todah. Now get this. The Khazars dwelling in our land live in absolute fear of Iran getting a nuclear bomb that they would launch within 10 minutes of having it assembled, and are scared to death of letting some of these suicidal wild men get in a hold of their Khazarian rear ends. And just before all hell breaks loose on them, they will attempt to carry out their secret reverse migration back to the Slavic, Russian, and Hungarian lands their identity thieving lying asses came from. This is why the Israeli prime minister, Benjamin Stu Netanyahu, is making backdoor deals with the Ukraine and other nations to take them and their wealth in. And now that they have admitted that they are not the Hebrew Israelite descendants of the Holy Bibles, this begs the obvious question. Who are the direct bloodline descendants living today of the ancient Hebrews of the Holy Bible? We are Zion, and the day is fast approaching where all of these heathens will acknowledge this fact as well. Terror is coming upon the earth in these latter times. But let us remember that which is written. In 2nd Ezra chapter 15, we've read many times during our studies, you Israelites, of the dragons of Arabia, and how they was going to be like a scourge coming across the earth, spreading chaos, death, and carnage. Now I want to share with you Israelites 2nd Ezra chapter 16, starting with verse 1, our key. And you Hebrews read it with me. And again, I beg of each and every one of you, with all of your getting, please get you understanding. We go into 2nd Ezra chapter 16, and we're going to start with verse 1. Let us take a peek in what these heathens call the lost books. These books they never wanted y'all to lay eyes on. But let us read what the Most High wants us to know. We read, "Woe be unto thee, Babylon and Asia. Woe be unto thee, Egypt and Syria." Gird up yourselves with cloths of sack and hair. Bewail your children and be sorry, for your destruction is at hand. A sword is sent upon you, and who may turn it back? A fire is sent among you, and who may quench it? Plagues are sent unto you. And what is he that may drive them away? May any man drive away a hungry lion in the wood? Or may anyone quench the fire in the stubble when it hath begun to burn? May one turn again the arrow that is shot of a strong archer? The mighty Yahweh sendeth the plagues, and who is he that can drive them away? A fire shall go forth from his wrath, and who is he that may quench it? He shall cast lightnings, and who shall not fear? He shall thunder, and who shall not be afraid? The Most High shall threaten, and who shall not be utterly beaten to powder at his presence? The earth quaketh, and the foundations thereof. The sea arises up with the waves from the deep, and the waves of it are troubled, and the fishes thereof also, before Yahweh, and before the glory of his power. For strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow. His arrows that he shooteth are sharp, and shall not miss, when they begin to be shot unto the ends of the world. Behold, the plagues are sent, and shall not return again until they come upon the earth. The fire is kindled, and shall not be put out, till it consume the foundation of the earth. Like as an arrow which is shot of a mighty archer returneth not backward, even so the plagues that shall be sent upon earth shall not return again. Woe is me, woe is me. Who will deliver me in those days? The beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the powers shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. But for all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. Behold, victuals, food shall be so good cheap upon earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case, and even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. For many of them that dwell upon earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. And the dead shall be cast out as dung, and there shall be no man to comfort them. Then we just see a man cast out as dung over there in Zimbabwe or wherever the hell that was. And the dead shall be cast out as dung, and there shall be no man to comfort them. for the earth shall be wasted, and the city shall be cast down. There shall be no man left to till the earth and to sow it. The trees shall give fruit, and who shall gather them? The grapes shall ripen, and who shall tread them? For all places shall be desolate of men, so that one man shall desire to see another, and to hear his voice. For of a city there shall be 10 left, and 2 of the field, which shall hide themselves in the thick groves and in the clefts of the rocks. As in an orchard of olives, upon every tree there are left 3 or 4 olives. Or as when a vineyard is gathered, there are left some clusters of them that diligently seek through the vineyard. Even so in those days there shall be 3 or 4 left by them that search their houses with the sword, and the earth shall be laid waste, and the fields thereof shall wax old, and her ways and all her paths shall grow full of thorns, because no man shall travel therethrough. The virgins shall mourn, having no bridegrooms. The women shall mourn, having no husbands. Their daughters shall mourn, having no helpers. In the wars shall their bridegrooms be destroyed, and their husbands shall perish of famine. Hear now these things, and understand them, ye servants of the Most High Yah. Behold the word of Yahweh. Receive it. Believe not the gods of whom Yah spake. Behold, the plagues draw near, and are not slack, as when a woman with child in the 9th month bringeth forth her son. With 2 or 3 hours of her birth great pains compass her womb, which pains, when the child cometh forth, they slack not a moment. I'm sure some of you sisters can testify to that. Even so shall not the plagues be slack to come upon the earth, and the world shall mourn, and sorrow shall come upon it on every side. O my people, hear my word. Make you ready to thy battle, and in those evils be even as pilgrims upon the earth. We must stand tall in the hour of confusion and chaos. He that selleth, let him be as he that fleeth away, and he that buyeth, as one that will lose. He that occupieth merchandise, as he that hath no profit by it, and he that buildeth, as he that shall not dwell therein. He that soweth, as if he should not reap. So also he that planteth the vineyard, as he that shall not gather the grapes. They that marry, as they that shall get no children, and they that marry not as the widowers. And therefore they that labor, labor in vain. For strangers shall reap their fruits, and spoil their goods, overthrow their houses, and take their children captives. For in captivity and famine shall they get children. And they that occupy their merchandise with robbery, the more they deck their cities, their houses, their possessions, and their own persons, the more will I be angry with them for their sin, saith Yahweh. Like as a whore envieth a right honest and virtuous woman, so shall righteousness hate iniquity when she decketh herself, and shall accuse her to her face. When he cometh, that shall defend him that diligently searcheth out every sin upon earth. And therefore be ye not like thereunto, nor to the works thereof. For yet a little, and iniquity shall be taken away out of the earth, and righteousness shall reign among you. Let not the sinner say that he hath not sinned, for Yah shall burn coals of fire upon his head, which saith before Yahweh Elohim in his glory, I have not sinned. Behold, Yah knoweth all the works of men, their imaginations, their thoughts, and their hearts, which spake but the word, let the earth be made, and it was made. Let the heaven be made, and it was created. In his words were the stars made, and he knoweth the number of them. He searcheth the deep, and the treasures thereof. He hath measured the sea, and what it containeth. He has shut the sea in the midst of the waters, and with his word hath he hanged the earth upon the waters. He spreadeth out the heavens like a vault, upon the waters hath he founded it. In the desert hath he made springs of water, and pools upon the tops of the mountains, that the floods might pour down from the high rocks to water the earth. He made man, and put his heart in the midst of the body, and gave him breath, life, and understanding. Yea, and the spirit of Almighty Yahweh, which made all things, and searcheth out all hidden things in the secrets of the earth. Surely he knoweth your inventions, and what you think in your hearts, even them that sin, and would hide their sin. Therefore hath the Most High exactly searched out all your works, and he will put you all to shame. And when your sins are brought forth, you shall be ashamed before men, and your own sins shall be your accusers in that day. What will you do? Or how will you hide your sins before the Most High and his angels? Behold, El himself is the judge. Fear him, leave off from your sins, and forget your iniquities, to meddle no more with them forever. So shall Yah lead you forth, and deliver you from all trouble. For behold, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you, and they shall take away certain of you, and feed you, being idled with things offered unto idols. And they that consent unto them shall be had in derision and in reproach and trodden under foot. For there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Most High Yah. They shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear Yahweh. For they shall waste and take away their goods, and cast them out of their houses. Then shall they be known, who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as the gold in the fire. All you Israelites looking to run and escape, I'm sorry. You got to face the same fire that Brother Jacob does. The difference is, I'm going to stand on it like a roaring lion. I ain't scared. It's time for some of y'all to put your big boy boots on and join me. Always looking to take off running and hiding. No. When we get tried as gold in the fire, then shall it be known who is the Most High's chosen. Because some of you cowardly Hebrews gonna fold like a cheap suit. Oh, don't do it to me no more. Oh, I ain't gonna do it. Oh, I won't worship Yah. I'll take these garments. I won't give me some pig to eat. I can hear you sniveling cowards now. I'm seeking the lines of my people. I keep telling you cowardly Negroes, y'all best get to the rear with the girth. Let me read that 73rd verse again. Got me spitting everywhere. I'm ready to start cussing like Hitler. Verse 73. Then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as the gold in the fire. Hear, O ye my beloved, saith Yahweh. Behold, the days of trouble are at hand. But I will deliver you from the same. Be ye not afraid, neither doubt, for the Most High Yah is your guide, and the God of them who keep my commandments and precepts, saith Yahweh Elohim. Let not your sins weigh you down, and let not your iniquities lift up themselves. Woe be unto them that are bound with their sins and covered with their iniquities, like as a field is covered over with bushes, and the path thereof covered with thorns, that no man may travel through. It is left undressed, and is cast in the fire. Let me read that again. Verse 78. It is left undressed, and is cast into the fire, to be consumed therewith. Hallelujah! Oh yeah, you Hebrews. We broke them Khazars off clean and proper like. And now that they're admitting they are Khazars, and now we have found out they got escape plans to try to flee the destruction that's coming. Y'all can't run from Obadiah chapter 1. I have been telling Israelites for more than 3 decades that them Khazars were used by the Most High for this purpose. For they have come back into the land of our ancestors. They have rebuilt the infrastructure. They have made modern cities, modern water treatment systems, housing, roads, and construction for our benefit, you Israelites. So when we go back home, we don't have to reach for nary a hammer or nary a nail. Because when them Khazarian kikes take out of there like lightning coming out of the sky, running back to the Ukraine, to Poland, to Czechoslovakia, or wherever the hell they crawled out of, they're going to believe behind that which they have built it up for our inheritance, so that the prophecies will be true. If it's anybody in this room that understood what your brother Jacob just said, can I get a hallelujah 1,000 up in her? Please, somebody. Todah Rabbah. I have been telling Hebrews for a long time that Yah was using those Khazarian kikes for this reason. Since 48, at the Balfour Declaration, those Edomites and Khazarian converts have built up the infrastructure of our land. They have built up the roads. They have put in a modern irrigation and water treatment systems throughout the land. They have modernized our cities. And when the time comes that those Khazarians hear their horn blow, that it's time for them to go, they gonna run like scalded dogs according to their secret plans back to their Khazarian ancestral homelands. Be it Poland, Czechoslovakia, Russia, Germany, I don't care, wherever they came from. But Yah used them in his infinite wisdom to go and rebuild that which the true Hebrew shall inherit. For Yah indeed keeps his word. And we shall see the restoration of the remnant of the 12 tribes of the house of Jacob, just as it is written. If y'all understood what I just said and agree with me, can your brother Jacob get a hallelujah 1,000 up in her, please? Todah Rabbah. That's our lesson. The 13th tribe now admits they are Khazars.